Hi, this is Maxim Verbist, and it is our fourth video on the series over Destiny. Are you a merchant? Is your imagination impressed by intelligence? Is your ethos driven by creativity? Is your life plagued by haste? If it's the case, this video may be for you. In animal societies, there is of course some exchanges of good among a community, but usually what they exchange is information. For instance, the bee has a special dance to explain the other bee where are the flowers. But the human communication allows us to perform another type of exchange, trading. So since cave age, some people will make hundreds or thousands of kilometers to exchange goods. So in one certain way, the globalization haven't invented everything. Trade is as old as humanity. A merchant is a professional dedicated in exchanging goods with other people. The merchant imagination is impressed by two principles: intelligence and action. Commerce is a far more dynamic activity than agriculture. But as the production and the demand keep changing, the job of the merchant is constantly to find new ways to relate one with the other. It requires a lot of flexibility. There is no doubt that there is some intelligence in the animal kingdom, and some animals are even capable to think before they act. But human intelligence is of another nature. Most people will reduce intelligence to the very famous IQ, but IQ is just supposed to measure the mental skills that will help a student to follow an academic curriculum. It won't explain if they will be good in life. Intelligence is a creative capacity to make a plan for action. So every time there is a new opportunity that occurs, we have the possibility to use our intelligence. And of course, to plan something stupid. Because that's the problem with creativity. A lot of what we create is rubbish. So we have to decide if it's a good or bad idea. But the intelligence itself generates the ideas. If you have a destiny of a merchant, you will be constantly attentive to the opportunity to can use your adaptive capacities and to create a plan. That is part of how you live in the world. There is one social skill that is essential to commerce, is that capacity to create a very fast bond with the customer, to make him feel that there is an interest to keep communicating with you. From a very early age, babies are highly sensitive to the way adults react upon them. It is fundamental for us human beings to feel that we can create some interaction with the people around us. If you have a destiny of a merchant, your emotional stability will be based upon your capacity to create with your interlocutor a lively conversation, to increase motivation. That means that whenever you manage to have a vivid conversation with someone or to have a plan for a common action, you will feel settled and panicked if people seem not to get engaged. Panic or disinterest. Since very early in the prehistory, we have evidence that people would make thousands of kilometers to trade goods. So what is the motivation that can drive a human being to take such a level of risk? Isn't there easiest way to make his living? Of course there is. But for the merchant, what really matters is not so much the gain he can obtain from his commerce. What really matters is to establish a connection. Creativity is the capacity to create new connections. And if you have a destiny of a merchant, that will be the driving engine of your life. In any of your action, you will try to establish new links because creativity is what gives meaning to your life. So, in a certain way, it would be much better to try something new, establish a new link, than just to follow an old recipe. Because what matters is creativity and not just gaining money. Creativity is not only what gives the merchant a meaning in his life, but it is also the driving force of his personal development. So he will learn progressively to use its creativity in a more and more social-oriented manner. The first domain where the merchant will utilize his creativity is in communication. Because when we communicate with people, we have a lot of possibility to get and to exchange new things. So at this level, the ideal of the merchant would be to look like a news anchor, someone who is broadcasting news all the time. As his degree of awareness evolves, he will start to understand all the exchange that keeps happening all around him. So the merchant, instead of willing to exchange just information, will be willing to establish a business. He will use his creativity to create projects and to involve other people in those projects. And some projects will work, some projects will not. But if creativity is the real driving engine, it doesn't really matter if it works or if it doesn't work. What matters is to try. In a third level, as the intellect will become more and more potent, the merchant will discover a third way to be creative with concepts. Because a concept is a mental tool that allows a better thinking. So the more we are creative in our concepts, and the more clearly we can think, and we can apply those concepts to many situations. For instance, we may apply the concepts of biological evolution to culture, because literature styles of music evolve also like animal species do. So the very same concepts can be used in many types of situations to think better. But being concentrated on communication, creating projects, or creating new concepts, what matters for the merchant is to create, because that is his driving force in life. The more we get connected to all the opportunity we see around us, the more we are prone to a vice that the ancients used to call gluttony. Gluttony is the awareness there is around us, a source of gratification that we can get right now instead of waiting for the meals. So the term gluttony is of course oriented towards food and drink, but there is a much broader vice about reward. When, for instance, savage capitalism wants to maximize the gain in a minimum of time, and we know that this produces a lot of damage in the economic structure. The modern intelligence technologies have provided a lot of new possibilities to create quick gains and to outrace our opponent, inventing completely new techniques that will destroy the market. Technologies of rupture are also a major topic of gluttony. So haste or gluttony is the imperious necessity to shorten the time to get our reward. And due to his high sensitivity to all the opportunity, the merchant is very prone to any form of gluttony. But also gluttony to many forms of reward, such as making quick money, making quick fix, that most of the time will be detrimental on the long term. Having a destiny of a merchant implies also to suffer from other people's gluttony and haste. Because as we have a very strong power to invent fast plans, We may be used by a system that fuels gluttony, and we may induce gluttony to others because we have the possibility to create, and this creates an atmosphere of gluttony. So in many situations, we have seen people who have invented new ways to deal with things that are completely overwhelmed and baffled with what happened to their creation. It is too late. It has been uptaken by others, and they are using it in a completely chaotic manner. So we can imagine that the moral status of the destiny of merchant is to have in one side a little devil who wants immediate results, the little devil of gluttony, and a little angel that will insist to create with the vision of the long term. And it is the contradiction of the merchant being constantly pulled in one side or the other and not knowing exactly what he has to do. If you remind this, you may gain some empathy towards someone who has a destiny of a merchant, because it's not that comfortable. Gluttony is deeply rooted with the feeling of haste, of trying to get right now the benefits. There are plenty of reasons to get immediately what we want. Therefore, if we want to tackle gluttony, common sense is of no use. If you really have a destiny of a merchant, you are constantly overwhelmed by all the opportunities to have quick gains. And if you want your mind to be still, you have to orient to eternity. Of course, there is nothing in nature which is eternal. Even time and space have appeared at one moment. But at the moment you manage to orient your mind towards the universal movement of cosmos, at this moment you need to get a quick result becomes absolutely meaningless. So eternity is the remedy for gluttony, and in my view it's the only one. In the other video we will discuss about destiny in general and about the other types of destiny. There are 7 types of destiny: warrior, gardener, merchant, artist, artisan, preacher, and diplomat. And they all come with a different type of challenge and interest.